Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be talking through my sort of career journey so far, and how I went from my undergraduate degree to currently working with Olympic athletes, and one of the roles I have working at the English Institute of Sport. So I hope it's going to be useful and it will give you some ideas of different paths you can take, and the fact that actually, as time progresses on, there are more and more opportunities within the area of sport. Whether that's from an education perspective in the roles I've had, or whether it's coaching, and increasingly for me now in the area of business too. So I hope it will provide some interesting insights, and that it will give you some ideas of different paths you could take, possible qualifications that you may need, and possible kind of considerations as you're going through. So my name's Henry, and I'm currently working in a couple of different roles. I lecture, I coach, I run businesses. So got really varied day to day. So one of the things which I was kind of asked to do was to give a typical day. It was actually pretty hard for me to give a typical day because it's always quite different. So what I've done instead is just given you the steps I've gone through in my career, and also given you some examples of qualifications I've taken and experiences I've had and what I've learned from those, which will hopefully give you some really interesting insights. So I started after school at Cardiff Metropolitan University, which was called UIC back then. And the degree I did was sports biomedicine and nutrition. This course has actually stopped now, but it covered areas such as molecular biology, cardiovascular physiology, sports nutrition, and various aspects of sort of health, performance, sport, to give a really kind of solid foundation in all the different disciplines that sort of contribute towards overall health and performance. Whilst I was there, I took the opportunity to do my level 3 personal training qualification, and that was a great decision because it meant that I was able to work first and foremost during uni, which enabled me to fund my lifestyle and be able to save some money during uni, which is obviously a big consideration. You know, financially, it cost a lot of money to go through uni, so that was very, very helpful. And it also gave me a solid foundation and opportunities to coach, to work with clients, to work in the gym at the university for a year, and to gain some experience straight away whilst I was at uni, so that when I was looking to apply for jobs, I already had a qualification, and I already had experience. And I can't over sort of emphasize enough how important it is that you have the experience as early as possible. So as I say, I was doing that level 3 personal training qualification. I wasn't too sure exactly which path I wanted to take at this point because I'd done such a kind of broad degree and it could have taken me down lots of different paths. But I knew I enjoyed sport. My background was in rugby. I knew I enjoyed training because I was doing my personal training qualification, and I enjoyed my fitness, and I always enjoyed coaching too. So I knew personal training and strength and conditioning was definitely a kind of path I was looking at and interested in, but I didn't know much about it at this stage. I was also considering a career in the army as well. So I was kind of looking at a few different options. Teaching definitely wasn't at the forefront of my mind at this point, but as you'll see in just a second, it was where I eventually ended up. So I was in a good position, I felt, because I had a good sort of broad range of experiences, broad range of skills in different areas too. When I left university, I was fortunate that the day after I got my results from uni, I was offered the job at Cheltenham College, which was really exciting. I started off as a graduate assistant, which meant that I was doing all sorts of different, I was involved in lots of different areas. So I was coaching in the prep school and the senior school. I was teaching and supporting the teaching, although I wasn't qualified at the time. So I was just kind of assisting primarily and observing other teachers teach, which taught me lots. I was involved in the kind of strength conditioning program and was kind of heading up that for a while until I eventually kind of got the formal title of head of strength and conditioning. And also did various other roles throughout this time. So over 8-year period, I was also head of athletics. I was an assistant housemaster in a boarding house for 4 years, which gives you lots and lots of pastoral responsibilities, obviously like looking after the pupils and your care, and gives you huge amounts of experience. And there was a time at which, aged 22, I was responsible for 70 boys in the house for a week by myself. because the housemaster was away on another visit. And that was a huge amount of responsibility. So you obviously gain a massive amount of experience doing that kind of role and all that entails. Whilst I was at the school were very, I was very, very lucky that they paid for me to do my PGCE, which is the teaching qualification. And they also funded me to do my UKSCA accreditation, which is the strength and conditioning gold standard in the UK. So it's the United Kingdom Strength and Conditioning Association. So I had 2 really good qualifications under my belt after a few years of working at Cheltenham College. As I've already explained, I already had my level 3 qualification, my personal training qualification. And now I had my PGCE and my UKSCA. So I felt like I was in a really strong position. So I progressed through from being a graduate assistant to being a teacher, head of strength and conditioning. I did the boarding. I've done head of athletics role and led, in the picture you can see there, the talented athlete program, which kind of supports 15 to 20 sort of high performing athletes in the school at national level and above. So I had a really broad range of experiences again. And that's probably the theme you'll see from my career so far. It's just the kind of the breadth, I suppose, of the experiences, which I think gives you lots of different skills. So being more of a generalist than a specialist early on is a very good idea. Towards the end of this, I began to feel that I wanted to specialize more in strength and conditioning, and that being in a school environment only was probably going to limit my ability to progress my skill set and progress in my career, because there wasn't a kind of level above that, if you like, within the school. But I had always had the ambition to work in elite sport, which is where I'm currently working at the English Institute of Sport. And so I knew I had to take a few more steps almost laterally at the same time to get there. So what I did alongside the school role, as a sort of part-time remote-based role and then on camps too, was work for Hockey Wales, which wasn't a particularly well-paid role, but it was an amazing amount of experience that I gained from doing this. And it kind of kick-started me into the EIS position where I am now. I worked for a year with the age group girls squad, under 16s and under 18s. And then a year later got promoted to the senior women's strength and conditioning coach, which, as you can see in the pictures, took me to Spain on the right-hand side with the group, to Lithuania in the middle there, to Glasgow on the left-hand side. So I had some really great experiences leading the provision of strength and conditioning for an international squad, some of which have gone on to play for Great Britain now, which is very, very rewarding. Gave me lots of experience, and it gave me some experience of working with a female group of athletes in a remote setting in international sport. Then the next step for me was I went part-time at the school and took a part-time role at the English Institute of Sport, which is the role I'm currently in, which is working across 10 different Paralympic and Olympic sports. So the role is called multi-sport strength and conditioning coach. So day to day, I work with a real variety of athletes, Paralympic dressage, snow sports, gymnastics, paracanoe, alpine ski, rugby, hockey, wheelchair basketball, work with para table tennis. So a really broad range of sports again. And you learn lots of things from all of those different sports and different types of people you meet along the way, particularly working with Paralympic athletes who've got some incredible stories and life experiences that you learn some amazing things from. So really, really lucky to be in this position now, which is, in the environment I'd always dreamt to have been in. And when I was just starting at the school and coming out of uni, age 21, that was the ambition for me. So I knew there were some steps to get there. And it's interesting, actually, in the strength and conditioning world, it's almost seen that if you're in the school environment, you're going to limit yourself if you want to work in elite sport. I think it's the opposite. I think actually the experiences you gain from working with young people, coaching and teaching, and the number of hours you accrue in these different sort of environments gives you an amazing skill set for when you move into elite sport later, if you wish to do that. And so I'm in a fortunate position. I work with 3 gold medalists currently. I've got about 15 athletes that I work with, but I also support other sports. The hockey program, rowing program are based out of Bisham too, so I support those guys. And so it gives me loads of different experiences. I've also started recently, so I left the school and joined Hartpury College, which is a university where I now lecture in strength and conditioning. So I work part-time at Bisham Abbey and part-time at Hartpury College. So I teach to undergraduate and postgraduate students, And the next step for me is to kind of potentially look at doing what's called an MRes qualification, Masters by Research, in order to continue working in education and being able to teach at that level. That's probably the next qualification for me, is to do a master's degree, which increasingly in the world of sport is a kind of prerequisite for certain positions. It's not limited me until this point now, but now I feel like if in the long term a role in education is going to work for me, which I think it probably will do more long term, then that will be the next kind of qualification to take. But I only started recently, only started a couple of months ago, so not huge amounts to report just yet because we're now into the summer holiday. But really enjoying a different role again, where I'm actually lecturing and delivering to students around strength and conditioning primarily, and that's undergraduate, master students, and different programs too. So teaching across the sports therapy, strength and conditioning, sports coaching degrees. And then on top of that, I predominantly started by the fact that the last year or so has changed my plan slightly for what I was intending to do. So when I left the school, my intention was to be in a position to work at Bisham full time. But it enabled me to start a couple of businesses alongside what I'm currently doing. One of which is my own online coaching business, where I work with about 10 different athletes from around the world, predominantly in the UK, but I've also worked with athletes in America. And I work with them remotely, online predominantly, and provide training programs for them. And we do monthly consultations and catch-ups and that sort of thing. So really exciting, and that's given me some amazing opportunities to collaborate with lots of people all over the world, to deliver talks for those people just like this. And a lot of that has come through my Instagram account, where I post quite regularly around training content. And then I've more recently started another business, collaborating with some other guys from different industries. So one of the things which in sports in particular is important is that you collaborate and integrate with different professions. So if you're working with athletes, you don't just want to have knowledge around training, but you also need to have knowledge around nutrition, psychology, injury prevention, various other aspects. And so we as a group deliver online education for athletes, clubs, schools, where we deliver sort of different content and resources. And that's also a really exciting opportunity there as well. So doing those two side by side. So that's where I'm at the moment. I hope that's been really helpful. I hope that's given you some insights into kind of all the different things I've got going on, which is, as I'm sure you can see, is varied, but it's exciting. And I've always enjoyed that variety. And it gives you lots of different skill sets. So, because I'm involved in business aspects, I'm involved in coaching aspects, I'm involved in lecturing and teaching aspects, gives you a really rounded set of skills, no matter what kind of environment you work in. Whether I continue to work in strength and conditioning, or whether later down in my career I go into education again, I'm not quite sure just yet. But I've always taken opportunities that have come up rather than having any really crystal clear plan. But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing at the moment. If you have any questions off the back of this, you can contact me via email if you like, or you can contact me on social media. I'm more than happy to answer questions that you might have. So these are the contact details here, or it's all the same. At Henry Davis SC on social media, or henry@henrydavissc.com at my email address. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have and follow up. And I hope that's been really helpful.